Hey everybody! So today I am filming a new version of my testimony from Harry Potter to Jesus. My old recording, there was something wrong with my camera and I went off on a lot of tangents and stuff, so I'm going to try and make this more concise. It's still going to be a long video because it's a long journey that I took to Jesus, but bear with me. I'll try to do this one better quality. I grew up where my family was all Catholic, and so my mom took me to the Catholic Church when I was little. From a pretty young age, I used to be kind of creeped out by all the kind of chanting and stuff, everybody saying the same thing in this toneless voice at the same time. It just kind of gave me the chills. It felt very cult-like. And so, like, when I was doing the schooling, the little nun school thing to do your first communion, and the nun gave me a really hard time, but I think part of it was that she could tell that I didn't really believe. I was just going through the motions because it was what was expected of me. And I think that's part of the reason why she was so hard on me. My mom could never really fully understand it, but I don't think she realized how young I was when I didn't believe in the Bible. I think the biggest thing that made me really start to doubt the Bible was when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade. We went on a field trip to a planetarium, and I got really into astronomy after that, like really studying constellations. I loved to hear like the fables behind the constellations, and the more I learned in astronomy about like the size of the universe and everything, the more I felt like the Bible was this very egocentric and very unlikely thing. Like, if the universe is really that big, how could we be the only intelligent life in the universe? And if we're not the only intelligent life in the universe, then what makes us so special that God creates us in his own image and that we're the only ones that could be saved? It seemed very far-fetched to me. And for a long time, like when the Ancient Aliens TV show started, I was in like middle school and stuff, and I was really into sci-fi things. Like, we watched Star Trek Next Generation when I was growing up, and so the idea of an ancient alien race coming to Earth and like having genetic manipulation of us and introducing us to things and being seen as gods seems so much more logical from the astronomical basis than the Bible did. When I was in like 5th grade, I think, my mom got married to a man from India, and he turned out to be a very abusive man. Just really killed my self-esteem and would say and do things that had these sexually perverse undertones to them, that they weren't overtly obvious that they were sexual in nature, but you could see, like paying me to sit in his lap to massage his legs. Yeah, really creepy. And like, I was so disturbed by everything that was going on with him that I really escaped into fantasy worlds at the time. So I would read a lot of books, and at the time, in addition to Animorphs, I was like super into all of the books that were in the realm Torral. And pretty much anything that had magic in it, I was like really into. I wanted to have magical powers and to be able to escape my life and to have more control. I remember at one point, I think it was middle school, it was before I moved to Lake County where I live now. I went up to Lake County around Halloween time to spend time with my cousin, and she was going to a friend's house for like a Halloween-ish themed slumber party, because her friend's birthday was near Halloween, so it was kind of had Halloween undertones to it for the slumber party. And I was really just wanting to fit in. I always felt awkward around people and shy and stuff, and so I just really wanted to fit in. And at one point, they were doing the Bloody Mary thing in the mirror, and I didn't want them to think I was a chicken, I really didn't want to do it. I was terrified to do it, but I didn't want them to think I was a chicken. I wanted them to like me. And so I did it, and I don't remember anything happening when I did the Bloody Mary thing. But I have had a fear of mirrors, like, for almost as long as I could remember. And I wonder if that's part of where it came from doing the Bloody Mary thing in front of the mirror. Maybe I had some sort of spiritual encounter that I can't remember. But yeah, it was very creepy. When we actually moved to Lake County, I was in 8th grade. At that point, I just really wanted to escape from the reality I was in. We had the abusive stepfather, and I was still dealing with that. I just was trying to escape more and more into fantasy worlds, and one of my friends was Wiccan, and so she introduced me to, like, trying to do spells and stuff. So I can remember sitting in my closet and trying to meditate and do a spell to try and get some control in my life, like trying to get Rye out of our lives or something like that. It was just, it was not cool. And at some point somebody had given me a Ouija board as like a present, and it was during this time that I found a Ouija board and started using it for the first time, and I found it very addicting. At my 14th birthday party, like, pretty much all we did was use the Ouija board. And it's really scary to think about these, like, seemingly innocent things that are introduced to you that definitely inviting harm into your lives. Oh, another thing about 8th grade is that over Christmas I had a great aunt who didn't have very much money, and she gave me the first Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And up until that point, I had really not wanted anything to do with Harry Potter. It was just so popular and everything, and I usually didn't like things that were popular, and I was like, I don't have an urge to read Harry Potter. I don't want anything to do with it. But then she gave it to me for Christmas, and she didn't have much money, and so I thought, well, I need to at least read it out of respect for her spending the money on it. And I ended up becoming very obsessed with the world of Harry Potter. That was kind of how I got introduced to it. One good thing that came out of Harry Potter is that I met some very amazing and dear friends who are still very special to me. They really helped me recover a lot from the abuse and find who I was underneath all of that low self-esteem and shit that comes from being abused. And I still have those dear friends to this day, and I'm very thankful that they came into my life, even if it was through Harry Potter. When I got into high school, my Harry Potter obsession, like, grew even more. I used to dress up. My friend's mom made me these purple robes, and I would wear the purple robes to school and wave a wand and have a little hat on and be quoting Gilderoy Lockhart.
Gilderoy Lockhart, Order Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League and 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. But I don't talk about that. After all, I didn't get rid of the banded banshee by smiling at her.
And yeah, and so I'd go around and I'd just be totally immersed in the world of Harry Potter. Just very obsessed with it. Very emotionally invested in the characters. When things happened to them, when they died and stuff in the books, it was very traumatic for me. It was as if somebody I knew had died. Sophomore year, we were at, like, a birthday party for one of my friends, and the mom was doing tarot card readings for all of us, and I was just, like, totally fascinated by it. I, like, loved getting the readings, and she taught us how to do, like, this little love fortune telling thing with a deck of cards and stuff, and I used to do that all the time. I had a friend who was really into astronomy. She would make star charts. Like, she'd find out the time and place of our birth, and she'd make star charts for us, and then go through she had, like, this book that was super thick that had all these things where you can go based on the specific positions of the stars at your birth, even more specific astronomical predictions than the regular 12 signs, and it ended up with like this 5 to 10 page thick packet of information that was specific to the day of your birth. So like I was really fascinated by that. Same friend introduced us to this board game called Atmosphere. I totally do not suggest that you play this. It's very demonic. It's got this creepy like demon guy yelling at you and giving you instructions on the TV, and you're opening like these gates and stuff, and so freaking creepy. A very creepy game, a very addicting game. We like play it every party because it was so addicting, but it was also super, super creepy. Do not suggest anybody play it. I went from thinking that Halloween was like a childish holiday thing to like having it be my favorite holiday because I could dress up as characters that I liked and have these really awesome slumber parties with my friends where we would do scavenger hunts and we'd do like mystery games and of course play Atmosphere and all this stuff. So Halloween turned from being a meh holiday to like super favorite holiday, and I get to hang out with my friends. During this time I was definitely very repelled by any mention of God or Jesus. If you started preaching to me, I would like run the other way. I did not want to have anything to do with God or Jesus. After I graduated high school, I definitely became even more obsessed with Harry Potter. Like I had like a full set of Harry Potter robes and my little light up wand, and I was just like gung-ho for it. I got into a lot of other things like Doctor Who, and I was overly obsessed with Disney to the point where it was like idolizing Disney. I had like autographed pictures of Walt Disney in my room because I was like super obsessed with like the Disney theme park history and stuff, and I really wanted to be that ideal cast member and stuff. In 2009, I was going to film school when I was diagnosed with a rare brain disease called intracranial hypertension. Basically, there's too much spinal fluid in my brain, and I have to have a shunt that relocates it. Even though I have the shunt relocating the fluid and I'm no longer blind, I have constant pain and exhaustion and like brain fog, very difficult for me to think and do basic tasks. And so it quickly became clear after I got diagnosed that I wasn't going to be able to go and work and like go back to Disney and work as a cast member or work with kids or any of the stuff that I had planned for my life. So I really escaped a lot into my fantasy worlds, which was watching the movies and the TV shows. I was into like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and, like I said, Doctor Who. Just like totally immersed myself in those worlds. I remember at one point I got to go to LeakyCon, which was this Harry Potter convention. It was such an amazing experience. If I could live in these TV shows and books and stuff, I would have preferred that to the life I was living. And I also would escape into video games a lot. I played a lot of Skyrim and Fable and Dragon Age, and I would play for like 16 hours at a time. So it was definitely, because I wasn't capable of living out and doing things in the real world, I was very much living in these fantasy worlds. But in addition to escaping into all these fantasy worlds, one of the things that I began to do to pass my time was I began to watch a lot of YouTube videos. And I began to like just really crave the truth behind the evil in the world. It kind of started with the whole 9/11 truth movement, and then I just got hungry for more and more truth, and so I would watch a lot of videos that would try and talk about why things are the way they are and the evil behind things in the world, all those conspiracy theory videos. And as I watched those videos over the years, they would have little grains of truth in them that just would hit me and would shift my spiritual perspective. I remember one of them was one that Troy did. What was it? It was talking about the Book of Enoch and the giants, and how what we see as aliens are actually demonic entities. And that was something that really stuck with me. And once I accepted that kernel of truth, it was just really a big knock out of the brick of the foundation of my beliefs, because I was totally buying into that ancient alien theory. But if aliens are demons and not aliens, then that just totally knocked that whole thing out from under me. And so that was a big kernel of truth. And I just kind of followed those little breadcrumbs over the years, just gradually shifting a little bit at a time. And it was a very private experience. I wasn't sharing it with other people. I wasn't really telling other people, partly because most of my friends and stuff wouldn't really understand the shift that was happening in me. And I also didn't want to be scared into going back the other way. So I was just keeping it very much to myself. In 2016, I was very depressed. I was feeling super sick. The doctors weren't finding what was wrong, and I just kept feeling sicker and sicker. I was extremely lonely. I couldn't get anybody to come and spend time with me outside of my family, which I love my family, but I needed some friends my own age to spend time with me, and nobody would come. And I was just at a breaking point. UC Davis doesn't seem to be taking seriously, and I don't know what symptom it's gonna take for them to understand that something is seriously wrong with my body. So God, please help. I can remember around Easter time, I got this cross at the dollar store, and I was actually praying, and I didn't even really I was believing the Bible and a lot of truths in the Bible, but I didn't even fully believe in God and Jesus at the time. I just was desperate. Just continue to look out for me. I've felt your spirit very strongly in recent times. I know that you're out there helping me, not just through the spirit of my baby boy here, but also in many other ways. I'm in the right place at the right time way too often for it to be coincidence that I know that's you looking out for me, and I'm trying to make sure that I have what's best in the world. Come summer, Pokemon Go came out, and I just was getting this really, really creepy vibe for it. Like, part of me, like, wanted to join in the craze. Like, was drawn into wanting to participate in the craze. And then another part of me was really just feeling like something was very off about it. And so I started looking at videos to try and find out if anybody else was having issues with Pokemon Go. One of them that I came across was Lee's video from Philea Ministries about Pokemon Go. And I started to say, you know what, there is something really demonic behind this. And it just got me hungry for more and more truth. And I ended up for like a full day just watching YouTube video after YouTube video, trying to find this truth and being hungry for the truth of what was going on spiritually behind things. So through watching the videos, I ended up getting led to this one that talked about like Satanism in things around your home. That was like Satanism in your living room. And it was about how they implant these themes and images into books and movies and TV shows and music and just like all kinds of things that are in your everyday life. And as he was going through it, I was seeing a lot of what he was saying. I was like, yes, I agree with you there. I've actually noticed that before. And then he kind of got to Harry Potter. And I was just like, not Harry Potter. Like, that's like my world, man. It's my jam. Not Harry Potter. But because a lot of the other stuff that he had said had a lot of truth to it, and I could recognize the truth to it, I didn't want to just accept what he said, but I also didn't want to dismiss it out of hand. So I started kind of researching it on my own, and I found this website that had like probably about 20 or so different articles, link after link after link. It was not just about Harry Potter, it was also about like in video games and stuff. And I just was soaking it up like a sponge and reading all these articles that had all these really nice detailed information on showing you how they had these aspects hidden within them, and how when you were participating in reading the books or watching these things, you're actually participating on a spiritual level, a subconscious level in these rituals, because you're imagining the characters and everything enacting these rituals, and so you're kind of imagining it into being. And the more I was reading it, the more I was starting to have my eyes opened up that, you know, this is true, this is really happening. There was a book series that I had just read that when I was reading, one of the descriptions was talking about what it's like for like a warlock or whatever going into a trance and entering the spiritual realm, and how they do things on a spiritual realm that ends up affecting the real world. And with just a few name changes here and there, word changes here and there, you basically described everything that happens in the Kingdom Keepers book series, which I had just read the week before. And it was just like this sheer horror washing over me as I was reading this information. And I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with this stuff anymore. And I just got this strong urge to just get everything out of my room that had this evil within it. It was just like this overpowering urge, this feeling that I needed to do this right now. And so I just started boxing up all my Harry Potter stuff and my Doctor Who stuff, a whole bunch of Disney stuff, just boxing it all up and getting it out of my room. And the more of the stuff that I took and put in the boxes, the sicker I felt. I felt like somebody was draining the life out of me. I was getting pale and weak and shaky. I was pouring out sweat. My head was pounding like it was in a vice. And at one point, it felt like a clawed hand was reaching into my chest and trying to rip my heart out. And at that point, I had pretty much everything out of my room, and I just felt like, you need to go to your Kindle now. And I had pulled up this web page that was linked at one of the things I had been looking at on this website that told you how to accept Jesus into your heart, how to repent and accept Jesus. And I could not tell you how to get to this webpage again if I tried. Because I remember after I had went through all the steps and everything, I had closed it out, I went to look for that webpage later, and I could not find it for the life of me. To this day, I'm convinced that the link must have been spiritual in nature, because it literally is like non-existent now. And so I got out the Kindle, and there's like part of the process is repenting your sins. So I ended up spending like 40 minutes just repenting in tears as I was realizing what I had been doing in my mind, and like the different sins I had been committing against God and Jesus. And I was just horrified by it as I realized that they were really real, and I had seen how they had been leading me on this breadcrumb trail for years and years to come to the realization that they were real and that they were trying to help me and to show me what the evil was in my life and what was causing so much of the darkness in my life. And I just was horrified. So I ended up spending like 40 minutes repenting, and I did the prayer to let Jesus in, and the head pain lifted almost instantly. It was just like eased off. The head pain that I've been feeling at some level for years, because I can remember back at Disney, it was a huge joke that I had headaches all the time, as one of my friends got me this big old bottle of Aleve because I had headaches all the time. And then it was just a huge joke within them, and the pain just eased. It was like just this burden was lifted off of me, and that weeping inside, that hopeless feeling, that loneliness, that just suffocating hopelessness, just inner weeping and everything. It was taken away. It was just slowly eased out, like a poison being eased out of my system, and replaced with this sense of peace and contentment and love, this feeling that I was loved, and just, I can't even describe it. It was so spiritual and so magical and amazing. But I was like bordering on suicidal with how hopeless and miserable I was with all my symptoms. And to just have that taken out of me and replaced with this sense of peace and joy and contentment, that even when I was at my happiest working at Disney, I never had a sense of peace like this. There was always things that I was worried about and everything, and now I'm just like, I don't need to worry, you know? I can see all the times in my life that God has made sure that I was provided for, and I've always had everything that I needed in life. I may not have always had everything I wanted in life, but I've always had everything I needed in life, and I can see that through my life. And so I just feel content and satisfied, and it's just been an amazing transformation. And ever since then, I've been like just praying all the time and just wanting to help others, having a more generous spirit. And Jesus did that for me because I believed in him in my heart and soul, and I repented from my sins. And I completely, honestly, I realized what I was doing that was wrong, and I repented, and I said, I don't want this in my life anymore. Lord, please protect me from it. Please keep this evil from influencing me. And he did. Well, my camera cut off, so hopefully it recorded that whole thing, and hopefully I was able to edit together a nice little piece here. But thank you for watching, and God bless you all. Bye.